On this channel, we talk a lot about drilling and practicing, getting hundreds and hundreds of reps on a specific shot to help your consistency, which is really important. But one thing that players can work on that would massively change their game is their in-game decision making. These decisions that high-level players make are something that is trained, and if you can improve these decisions, it could totally transform your game. We're going to be talking about what decisions to make, why to make them, and by the end of this video, you're going to be able to hop on the court and translate this in your game right away. All right, first things first, we're going to start with the third shot. Obviously, the age-old question everyone asks, do you drive or do you drop? There's a lot of different nuances, and at the end of the day, you definitely want to play to your strengths. But I'm going to separate the return that you're going to be receiving back after your team serves into two separate categories. Number one is if the return is leading you in. If the return is short and you're actually stepping into the transition zone, that's one category of the return. And the second one is if the return is pushing you back and you are actually striking your third shot from behind the baseline. So we have to distinguish those two. Again, we're going to start with the shorter returns. So if myself or my partner has served the ball and I see a short return coming in, I know that I'm going to be stepping inside that transition zone to take time away and potentially apply offense. When that return is shorter, I know that my returner is probably not going to be all the way up to the non-volley zone line. So catching them in transition and hitting a drive is always a great option because I want to make sure that I try to catch them in transition so that I can stay on offense. The other thing that you could think about when that return is leading you in and you are actually taking a step or two inside of the court is that this drive is going to be a lot more offensive. So I'm actually going for them missing or potentially popping it up as they're in transition, or maybe their partner is coming across reaching for a volley. My mindset here is to drive and then close. This is really important, especially if that return is much higher. So that's typically what I want to do on shorter, higher returns. Now let's talk about returns that are maybe mishit or they're kind of just hit short and they're actually a little bit low. What a lot of players do is they see a short return and they automatically think, okay, short, I'm going to drive it. But there are some cases where that ball has slice on it, it's spinning away from them, or they're reaching and running in, and that ball is actually below knee level. What happens? They actually end up hitting the ball into the net, or they end up overhitting and the ball goes way out. So on balls that you are actually contacting at shin level or knee level or below, these are balls that are probably easier just to dink in, just so that we can get up to the kitchen line, and it's a higher percentage play compared to driving from a low position. Whether you've started this game 6 months ago or 6 years ago, we have an awesome free resource for you. Check out Pickleball Framework. It gives you a good idea on how to play from every part of the court and great strategies that you can use to dominate with you and your partner. Check it out below or scan the QR code here. Okay, so now that we talked about what to do with kind of shorter returns that are leading you into that transition zone, what do we do with balls that are actually coming a lot deeper and we're actually contacting and connecting on our third shot when we're behind the baseline? Well, if you do have a good third shot drive and it's very reliable, maybe you have a tennis background or maybe you've just been working on it, a drive is a great option if you are well balanced. After I serve the ball and that return comes back, if I can just drive the ball from the baseline and then stabilize my feet, and then if I get that ball right in front of me, then I can go for my fifth shot drop, and it's very easy to transition. We're seeing this at the highest levels, obviously at pro levels, but if you do have a good drive and you're behind the baseline, you can use that to develop an easier ball that's more in front of you that you can actually just come and dink in. So that is the drive and drop. What is really important on that though, again, is stabilizing after the drive. You don't want to be driving off of your back foot and you don't want to be driving off balance, because if you're doing that and you're not stabilized, your opponents at the net are going to be able to do anything they want with the ball. A common scenario that I typically see is players are getting pushed back on their return, and then they're driving that third shot, and now their opponents are easily hitting a drop shot that they can't get to. So what's really important after your drive, if you're going to utilize that as a third shot, is to drive, stabilize, and then prepare for the next shot. Another quick thing that I see players do that actually do have really good drives is that they are taking their drive from the baseline and they are coming and crashing in, trying to apply offense. Remember, when you're getting a short ball that is actually leading you in, that is the time to drive and then crash and apply pressure. But if that return is really deep and you're actually contacting the ball from behind the baseline, and I try to drive and then run up and crash here, if your opponents have good counters, they're just going to counter that ball right at your feet. So if you are driving the ball from behind the baseline, it is a really good play and a good thing to just try to drive it, stabilize, and then go for that fifth shot draw. The second option, if you're getting a really deep return, is just choosing to hit a third shot drop. Now, whether you hit more of an underspin or flat drop or a topspin drop, the drop will allow you to buy yourself time so that you can actually get to the net and get into a good reset position in the transition zone. So again, if I serve the ball and that return is relatively deep, I could hit that drop, and while that drop is in the air, I could come in and try to get in a good reset position somewhere around this mid transition zone so that maybe I could hit one reset and get in after that. So to quickly recap, the third shot drive versus drop, it really depends how high that bounce is and where you're actually taking and hitting your third shot from. This also hinges on your strengths. So again, if you have a good drive, you want to be able to use it, maybe to set up a fifth shot drop or to apply pressure. But if that ball's really low, you have to be disciplined and try to drop that ball to get you and your partner up at the non-volley zone. All right, the next thing I want to discuss is your decision making in the transition zone. So when you're coming through this transition zone, whether you just hit a drive and you're working your way in, or you're hitting a drop, or maybe you're on defense, it's really important to understand that we need to make a decision, attack or reset every time. Now, some players will tell you to reset every time, but there are definitely some times where you would want to attack. The very first thing that I want to keep in mind is I want to understand how deep I am in transition, okay? So let's say I'm back here, maybe the back third of transition. This is very, very different than if I was in kind of the front third of transition, okay? One thing that I like to think about and I teach players is the further back you are, obviously you're in a wider stance and your paddle is lower. From this position as well, if you do decide to attack from this far back, your opponent has a lot of reaction time, and if they have good hands, they're going to be sending it at your feet because you have more room. If you are going to be attacking closer to that non-volley zone line, when I hit the ball, my opponent will have less reaction time and I can maybe get away with more pace because of that. So to start off, I want to talk about deep transition. Well, in this area of the court, I am in a very big positional disadvantage, right? My opponent is right up at the net. And if I'm going to be swinging up on the ball at all, that means my opponent is going to be swinging down on me. So pretty much from here, I am almost never attacking unless it's very, very clearly high and it's slow, okay? If your opponent is sending you balls kind of fast and it's above your chest level, those balls are going out anyway, so I don't want to be looking for those balls. Great, go ahead and hit me a couple at my chest level. Okay, all right, one more. Right, those are not the balls that I want to hit, right? Good players anyways are going to keep the ball a lot lower at your feet, and this is where I would want to actually reset and buy myself time. So go ahead and Gray and hit me a couple at my feet here. Okay. So when I'm in this deep transition and that ball is landing the court and these balls are at that waist level and below, I'm almost never attacking, especially at high levels, because I want to make sure that I actually hit that ball soft so that I can buy myself time to come in. So a good example of this is someone's attacking me at the feet and I'm trying to buy myself time so that I could then get in and get to that non-volley zone. So again, you definitely don't want to be attacking from a low position here. I'm going to quickly show you what that looks like. If I'm attacking from a really low position, then my opponent is going to be swinging down and countering down at my feet. That's why you really want to develop that discipline to actually reset balls when you're this deep in transition. Now let's talk about kind of that mid transition and then maybe kind of getting closer to that non-volley zone. This is kind of the land of opportunity where you probably could be attacking and closing space on your opponent if they are trying to get the ball at your feet. From this middle of the transition or to the first third of transition closer to this non-volley zone, yes, my feet are exposed, but I am only 1 or 2 steps away from closing in and potentially attacking my opponent and defeating their reaction time. So here on the court is where I really have to make a good decision. Again, if I want to play it safe and that ball is coming at my knee level, I definitely want to reset those. But if I can kind of find balls that are a little bit higher above my waist, I could take a chance on those, but I got to make sure that I'm hitting a good spot. So I'm going to first show you if I'm in this position, Grayson's going to kind of hit me low balls here. Okay. Right. That's a low one. And I want to make sure I buy myself time. Okay. Another one here. Low ball there. I buy myself time to come in and close to the net. Now, if that ball is coming a little bit slower and it's at that waist level or a little bit higher, I can now maybe try to close and attack. What's really important here is that if I am going to be attacking, I don't send it into a strong counter position. So I know most players at high levels are very strong right here in the chest. I don't want to attack there. I want to make sure I get it low to a chicken wing or making them stretch and reach. So again, there's nothing wrong with attacking from this position. You just got to make sure that you attack into a good spot. I'm going to first show you a ball that I attack straight to the chest. Okay. Okay. If I extend it to the chest or around this area to a really good player, they're just going to easily put it back. And now I may be on the defense on the next ball. But if I can kind of get this ball more down or away from them, then I'll have a better success rate on my attack. So again, here we go. So like you saw there, I'm attacking from a higher position, but I'm kind of getting him in the chicken wing, and that was much lower. So to recap, if you want to attack from transition, that's definitely okay, but you got to make sure that you're nice and balanced. And when you are looking to attack, you've got to find a good spot. If you want to play it safe and you have a good dink game, it might be better off for you to just reset the ball, buy yourself time, and then get to that net. All right, last but not least, I want to talk about your decision making at the non-volley zone. Now, the higher level you go, you're going to understand how important it is to get better and better in this decision making at the non-volley zone, but we're going to go over some key things that is going to help you progress no matter what level you are. Number one is we always should be striving to take every ball out of the air if we can. Why? We know that takes time away and it could apply pressure on our opponents. So when I'm up at the non-volley zone line, I'm trying to reach in, lean in, and take time away, okay? So I'm just going to show you a little bit example of Grayson and I dinking here. Here we go. If I can lean in like that and take time away, then I'm doing my job, okay? The most important thing when I'm doing that though, what most players don't realize is I have to make sure that ball is bouncing and moving my opponent. When I'm taking time away here, I don't want to just hit it right at them because they're going to take control. And then also I don't want to hit it to their paddle like that because now they're going to be attacking me. So what's really important, not only am I going to try to take the ball out of the air, but I got to do something with it. As you saw in that first example there, I was bouncing and moving Grayson, and that's exactly what I want to do on my volley dinks. Now, players ask me this question all the time. When should I actually let the ball bounce? What I like to say to players is everyone has their own range, right? Taller players, you're going to be able to reach in more. Shorter players, you're going to reach in less. That's just the way it goes. But that being said, you can still make good decisions even though if you don't have the same length or height as some other players. So what I like to do or like to visualize for myself is I don't want to be volleying the ball at knee level or below. Why is this? Because when I'm volleying the ball that low, I just have to bring it up, right? I'm going from such a low position and I have to clear the net, and then most of my balls are going to be more dead in this position. I'm going to show you a couple examples of this. Here we go. Okay, when I'm volleying and taking dink volleys well below my knees, it's very, very hard to be offensive, nearly impossible. So those are ones that I kind of want to step back. I'm going to show you a couple more of me leaning in again. So instead of volleying those balls and try to take time away, remember, those are not the same balls that I would be getting above my knee height, right? When they're above my knee height, around that thigh level, I could take time away and I could send it wherever I want to send it. But again, from down here, you don't have a ton of options and all your dinks are going to be defensive. So with those balls, I want to make sure that I'm creating space back. So if I can't reach it out of the air, right, I could create space back, maybe apply a little bit of topspin, and now I can actually move my opponent around and gain some offensive traction. Now I want to talk about balls that you're clearly going to be initiating or speeding up on. Now, this is going to kind of depend on what tools and what weapons that you have. If you have good topspin motions or you have a backhand flick or roll, you can attack from lower positions. So that's really dependent on your technique. But if I'm going to choose to attack or flick the ball with topspin, the most important thing to me is I'm going to make sure that I have a target in mind. I don't want to be blindlessly attacking, even though the ball might be high enough and I'm in a balanced position. If I hit that attack into a bad target, I'm going to get eaten up by higher level players. So again, we talked about hitting at the chest may not be the best place to go against higher level players. I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. Like you saw in those two examples, I had a really good opportunity. I was balanced to attack, but again, I didn't send it to a really good location. Again, like we say in a lot of our videos, you have to make them stretch or reach or hit a part on the body that's really, really awkward. And a chicken wing is going to be a good spot to go against most players. So in these examples here, I'm going to show you, I'm getting the same exact ball, but I may not even hit it harder. I'm just changing the target and location. And now my attack is a lot better and I could actually win the point off that or close on the next ball. Like you saw in those scenarios, again, I have kind of similar balls on those two attacks, but I changed my location. When you're attacking out of the air, it's really important that we're not only just going for pace, but we're really picking a good spot on the body.